How does a database interpret a query you have submitted? In order to execute the query, the Vertica database generates a query plan, a sequence of steps used to determine the execution path and the resource cost for each step. In this video, you'll see how to generate and interpret a query plan in Vertica, and at a high level, how that plan is executed over our distributed database. This is an example of a query plan generated in Vertica's Management Console, our web-based performance monitoring and management tool. For the queries submitted, the plan describes the projections used for the query, the application of query predicates, and methods used for completing joins and group bys. The cost calculated at each execution step is an estimate of the resources the query plan will use for its execution strategy. These resources include, but are not limited to, data distribution statistics, CPU speed, available disk space, available memory, network bandwidth, and data segmentation across clusters. If you are not using Management Console or a similar database management tool, you can generate a query plan directly using Vertica's vSQL command line interface. Just enter the SQL command explain before your query, and the same query execution plan will be displayed for you. Let's talk about how Vertica uses query plans to execute a query. Remember, Vertica treats all nodes as peers. There isn't a master node. The data is stored in projections, equally distributed across all nodes in the cluster. For a refresher on how data is stored in Vertica, check out the Vertica projections and Vertica hybrid storage architecture videos on this channel. When a user enters a query, a load balancer selects the least active node to submit the query to. This node is known as the initiator node, and this is the one that the query is submitted through. The next actions all take place on the current initiator node, so let's focus on just that one. The Vertica Optimizer component works on the initiator node. It examines the query and generates several possible execution plans based on the existing projections. Each of these plans is evaluated to determine which has the lowest resource cost. The lowest cost plan is selected, and the projections that will be used for that plan are identified. Now that the query plan has been selected, we can examine its action on the other nodes. The other nodes in the cluster are known as executor nodes. The execution plan is distributed to these nodes, and the query request is processed in parallel on each node against each unique subset of data. When the individual nodes complete their part of the execution plan, the results are sent back to the initiator node and merged. The results are combined in an aggregating operation and formatted for return to the client. Since Vertica is designed for concurrency, these steps take place simultaneously across all cluster nodes. Thanks for watching. There's more to learn about how Vertica processes and executes queries. In the Vertica Essentials instructor-led course, you'll learn more about query plans and options for managing query loads across the cluster. In the Vertica Query Performance Tuning class, you'll learn how to analyze your production queries to identify performance bottlenecks, and how to manually customize projection design to meet your changing production requirements. Look in the notes below for a link to the course registration system. And finally, you can access the full Vertica documentation set from the My Vertica portal. A direct link to the section on query plans and execution cost estimation is also in the notes below.